I'll go on to the next question, which is: do you feel that this state came at or the Israelis, for the most part, feel that the state came at the expense of Palestinians? That you know, so you can, you can sort of, on the one hand, in your narrative, understand why it's so important. It was so important for Jewish people to form the state. But do you think most Israelis understand, the impact that this had? That are aware of the fact that, like, really instilling this democratic majority kind of required, it had to come at the expense of the people who were there when you arrived, basically.
Um, there are those who don't care. Like, they see it as just a natural consequence of war. So, we went over this narrative earlier, so I'm just going to say it in a sentence. They're like, we were here, they were here. Britain decided to give us the land. They didn't have it. We went to war. We won. They left. And now they're just bitter because they lost. And a lot of Israelis, and this is a very popular view, kind of look at other states, and they're like, but other states were created the exact same way. And you told me this, Zahir, when you were just like, yeah, other states were created the same, but you were created at a time where this was no longer acceptable. And so as Jews see it as kind of a double standard, kind of like most other states were established the same way. We don't see the Native Americans, getting independence. We don't see, I don't know, just, Cyprus, for example, which there's a dispute, or, the land between Pakistan and India. We have all these things. We don't see them coming and saying like, oh, but you wipe them away. And it's only towards the Israelis that they say this. It's towards so it's either they don't care because they see it as a consequence of war. It's either they think it's justified because it was a consequence of war and that's what happens, and they're just hating on Israel because we were late in the game. And then there's those others that obviously see it. I'm one of those, and I don't think I'm the only one. And I can tell you, people who don't really want to give the Palestinians a state were like, yeah, we drove them out. We had a mission, and that was to create a Jewish state. And in order to create a Jewish state, we needed a Jewish minority, and we had to do what needed to get done in order to have the state. Especially because before the establishment of the state, Jewish migration to the land was limited by the British, and before that, the Ottomans. And after the Holocaust, we could not uphold these limitations. We're just like, no. And then Ben Gurion was kind of like, just so you know, the establishment of the state was extremely contested between the first government of Israel. It barely passed. We were like, we were not ready. We need more, la la la, and the Brits and the Palestinians, or the Arabs, because we didn't call you Palestinians back then. And la la la, and Ben Gurion's like, yo, like we need to get right now 500,000 Jews from Europe. So I really don't care if we are ready or not. We need to do this because Jews who came to the land were sent to Cyprus and into camps. Like, how sensitive of that? Someone leaves Auschwitz or Treblinka, and then they take them to another camp in Cyprus. So even the decision to establish a state was done in a hurry, just because we knew that we needed to absorb a huge influx. And so even then, it's kind of justified because of that. But it doesn't mean that people are blind to the consequences of the necessity of the Jewish people back then. Even people who don't like the Palestinians or don't agree that they need a state understand that this was done. So you either sympathize with it and say, okay, what now? Now we need to find a solution. Or you say, like, yeah, it happened, but, tough luck. So I hope that less and less Israelis will say it happened, tough luck. And more Israelis will say, now we need to find a solution. Like, we effed up. We established the state the way that we did, and it had grave consequences on the Palestinian people. Now we have a state. Now we are not in existential fear of persecution. So now we have the luxury, so to speak, to start understanding what we can do for the Palestinians in order for them to have the right to self-determine in this land.